Hello, students, and welcome to our lesson today. We're going to be talking about a very important topic from your economics chapter on food security in India. It's a bit of a puzzle, really. What happens when a country produces tons and tons of food, but some of its people still go hungry? Let's explore this together.
So let's start with a very simple question. What does it actually mean to be hungry? We all know that feeling when we miss a meal, right? But is that the same as the hunger we're discussing in economics? As we'll see, for many people, hunger isn't just a temporary feeling. It's a very serious, everyday problem.
Here's our roadmap for today's lesson. First, we'll define what we mean by real hunger. Then, we'll look at the two different kinds of hunger. After that, we'll discuss India's big push to grow more food, known as the food revolution. And then, we'll look at a really important idea, the difference between having food and being able to get it. Finally, we'll wrap it all up.
Okay, so first up, what is real hunger? It's not just about an empty stomach. In economics, hunger is a very important signal. It tells us about the well-being of people and the health of the entire country.
Now look at this definition. The key word here is regularly. We're not talking about missing one lunch. Real hunger is a long-term, serious condition. It happens when a person just doesn't get enough food, day after day, to stay healthy. And that's why it's such a key indicator of what we call food insecurity.
Now, it's interesting because hunger isn't just one single problem. It actually has two very different faces or dimensions. Each one has different causes and affects people in different ways. Let's look at these two types, chronic and seasonal hunger.
So, as you can see here, we have two very different situations. On one side, we have chronic hunger, which is a constant, long-term problem. On the other side, we have seasonal hunger, which is temporary and happens in cycles, usually related to farming or certain kinds of work. Let's break them down a bit more.
Chronic hunger is really a result of deep poverty. Just imagine a family that has a very low income, and that income isn't even stable. For them, buying enough food is a struggle every single day. Their diet is always inadequate, not just for a week or a month, but for a very long time. Seasonal hunger, on the other hand, is connected to the seasons of the year. It's very common in rural areas. Think about agricultural laborers. They have a lot of work during sowing time and harvest time. But what happens in the months in between? They might not have any work or income. The same thing can happen to casual workers in cities, like a construction laborer who can't work during the rainy season.
So, India was facing these big challenges of hunger. What did the country do? Well, after independence, India launched a huge mission to solve this problem by growing more food. This was India's food revolution.
After India gained independence in 1947, one of the biggest challenges for our leaders was how to feed our huge and growing population. So, the number one goal was to achieve what we call self-sufficiency. This means that India had to grow enough food for its own people without depending on other countries.
And the strategy that was adopted to achieve this goal was the Green Revolution. This was a truly major turning point in our country's history. It brought in new strategies and new hope for Indian agriculture. Now, the Green Revolution wasn't just one single change. It was a package of new technologies that all worked together. First, special high-yielding variety seeds for wheat and rice were introduced. These seeds could produce much more grain, but they also needed more water, so irrigation facilities were expanded. And finally, to get the best results, farmers started using more fertilizers and pesticides.
And what were the results? Well, they were really impressive. Our food grain production increased massively. As you can see, in 2021-22, it was 315 million tons. This huge increase meant that India became self-sufficient and could avoid the large-scale famines that used to happen in the past.
The success of the Green Revolution was especially strong in certain states. Punjab, Haryana, and the western part of Uttar Pradesh saw the highest rates of growth. They became the granaries of India, producing huge amounts of wheat and rice.
So, with our granaries full and record amounts of food being produced, you would think the problem of hunger was solved, right? Well, this is where things get a little more complex. Let's move to a very important part of our lesson.
This is the really critical question we need to ask ourselves. If the country has enough food, does that automatically mean that every single person has enough to eat? Let's think about that.
This slide explains the difference very clearly. The Green Revolution solved the problem of food availability. That means at a national level, we have enough food.
But there is another part to the story: food access. This is an individual-level challenge. It means, do people have enough money to actually go and buy the food that is available?
So here's the crucial point to understand. Hunger can still exist even if the country's storages are full of grain. If people don't have enough income to buy that food, then it doesn't solve their problem. So food security depends on both having enough food in the country and people being able to afford it.
All right, let us quickly summarize the main points we have learned in this lesson.
These are the essential concepts to remember. First, hunger is a very important indicator of food insecurity. Second, hunger can be a long-term problem, which we call chronic, or a cyclical one, which we call seasonal. Third, the Green Revolution was a huge success that made India self-sufficient, ensuring food availability. But, and this is the important part, the lack of access to food because of poverty is still a major challenge.
So, I will leave you with this final question to think about, because it is the central challenge of food security in India today. The granaries are full. Why are some plates still empty? Keep this question in mind as you continue your studies. Thank you for joining the lesson.